And we're back with another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast. Plus, also as well, of course, go ahead and check out what we do at Inside Sports Fantasy Football. If you have any questions on fantasy football, please go ahead and reach out. isfantasyfootball at yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. Right there for you. We answer your questions on playoff matchups, lineup changes, and more. So go ahead and check us out. isfantasyfootball at yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. But it is NFL Week 15, and for some leagues, not all, but some leagues, it's playoff time. You've earned it. You've worked hard all season long. You've managed the waiver wires. You've studied trades. You've rejected trades. You've maybe proposed some trades. Maybe even did some trades. You've changed your starting lineups. You've made the moves at the right time. You've checked out the injury reports, and your work has paid off, and you are in the playoff chase. And now, for many leagues, the playoffs have begun. So what do you do now that the playoffs are here? Do you change your mindset? Do you change your starting lineups? Do you go with what brought you to the dance? Or as you see trends starting, do you change them in time to go ahead and make the right moves for your playoff team? And here today to discuss the mentality behind two guys and myself who've all had many, many fantasy football playoff appearances. We'll start off with a good man indeed. He is the man behind Simblades with a Y.com, and also LakersBall.com is Ox1947. It is Joe Soro. Joe, glad to have you here. Cool Bro is already in the chat. He's a maybe after a quick bite to eat at In-N-Out. But my friend, when it comes to what you're seeing with fantasy football, the playoffs are here. You already said in some of your leagues already. How do you prepare a little bit differently for your playoff team to get the victories you need to go all the way?
I'm in limbo right now. A lot of my high-priced players are not performing. Stephon Diggs being one, Tua being another. I'm hoping that they can break at the right time. I guess Pollard is okay. He's been playing well, but I'm not getting any of these 30 scores lately from any of my running backs or any of my receivers. AJ Brown has kind of hit the skids as well. I don't know what's going on in Philly. I don't know if the injury to Jalen Hurts is starting to affect the team. Maybe they're getting burnt out a little bit from the season. So it's difficult. Adam Thielen was playing really, really well for the majority of the season. He didn't do too bad last week, but he's not getting the ball in the red zone. So it's kind of tough. But what sucks about this season is I've taken guys out and they've had great games when I've taken them out. Pollard, Jacobs from the Raiders. So at this point, I'm going to try to gauge this next couple of days on what I want to do with the players that are on the bench that might be useful, and Swift probably being the biggest disappointment for me because I had him as my flex and he hasn't really done much for me. And you would think that I keep thinking that with Jalen Hurts hurt, they might use him more, but they're not. So I'm just gonna go with what brought me to the playoffs in two of my three leagues, and see if maybe I can get lucky and have them hit their stride at the right moment and at least win a title in one of these two.
Once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is Joe Soro and Gerald Glassford here, but also here today, a good man indeed. He is the madman from Toronto. He did get out of Toronto traffic to go ahead and share his playoff fantasy football advice, along with a whole bunch of Triscuits as well. It is my good friend indeed, Mr. Magic Man, Sean Grice. Sean, great to have you here. It is now playoff time in many leagues out there, fantasy football. Not everywhere. Like, for instance, I'm in Yahoo in one of my leagues, and that is still yet to be determined. I'm just outside a playoff spot, but with a victory this weekend, I will get into the playoffs and battle against my good friend, Mr. Chris Zardieri, who unfortunately could not be here today. Our thoughts are with him, my friend, as far as hopefully everything will be okay and you'll be back on next week. Your thoughts, my friend, on how you prepare, because you've been playing fantasy football for years. How do you prepare when it comes to what happens in playoff time? Do you manage your team differently at all?
Yes, absolutely, Gerald. Because I've said it before. I'll say it again. To me, the real football season in the NFL starts after Thanksgiving, and that's usually when you see teams who are either rounding into form or have rounded into form are doing what they do best at a high level. So that means a couple things moving forward. One is um you you'd love it right now if you had Christian McCaffrey,
Yeah.
because 49ers are going to run it down everybody's throat. Not to mention, if you have certain wide receivers during the playoffs, it can bode well to Tyreek Hill. Debo Samuel can take, wide screens, bubble screens, whatever you want, turn those into 40, 50, even house calls, Gerald. But as we've seen, certain possession receivers like Justin Jefferson, Gerald, where we kind of struck out with last week because we kind of gave people some advice there on whether or not you should start him or not. We advised to start him, and he was out of the second quarter, barely got in, almost 2.5 possessions with the Vikings. Yet here we are. Certain running backs I'd still play. I think Josh Jacobs is gonna get a lot of look over the next month, Gerald. So I'd be looking at him. Any one of the Dolphins running backs that you have as well, I'd be looking at that. Um, if you have Kyle Pitts, I'd start him
Good call.
because even though Drake London is a number one right receiver, Gerald seems like he spends more time blocking for Kyle Pitts than he does on slant routes for Desmond Ritter. So I think Kyle Pitts is a good option, especially in the red zone. I would also look. I'm not sure if anybody's still have him on a waiver. Well, no, it wouldn't be a waiver wire, right, Gerald?
No, I mean waiver wires are still available if you need to
Okay,
use them.
if Ferguson is still on a waiver wire, pick him up if you can. He is going to be a huge factor in the red zone for the Cowboys down the stretch here.
Okay. All right. And that's anybody relating right now to the Cowboys because one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NFL. Definitely can't disagree with you there. Dak Prescott has totally turned his career around from somebody, especially in fantasy football, because fantasy football, he was on a lot of waiver wires to start off the season. Even through weeks 3 and 4, he was still found on many of those waiver wires. And a lot of people, if they were smart, they grabbed him and were able to go ahead and utilize him to what could be very well, maybe an MVP season. But Joe, when you're playing in your playoff matchups, do you make any adjustments on the fly? Do you make any adjustments that you see as far as changes are concerned? Because if you're falling behind, do you go ahead and maybe second guess yourself sometimes and make some quick changes from the morning game to the afternoon game on Sunday? Because that happens quite a bit, especially people get a little bit itchy trigger fingers when it comes to during that playoff Sunday.
Well, the issue is lately is my players are not scoring touchdowns. It's not a problem with usage. It's just they're not scoring touchdowns, and I'm not getting those big numbers. My I guess my hope in the balance is that since I haven't had it for 3 weeks, my hope is now the balance goes my way for the next 2 to 3 weeks
Mhm.
because it's ridiculous. I haven't; these guys are not scoring mother freaking touchdowns. I don't get it. And if you don't score touchdowns or two, the 15 point doesn't become 30 or 25. Those are the type of scores that let you win. Quarterback play has been horrible. Stroud and Tua have not really done me much, and there's really nothing out there that would probably make a difference. Overall, quarterbacks are terrible, but I was hoping CJ would at least give me some stuff on with his legs, and then the idea of having Tua was he's got an arsenal behind him and in front of him, but he can't seem to get anything going either. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to end up. I'm thinking about possibly picking up Matthew Stafford in one of my leagues, and since he's kind of been doing a little bit of good, and that's kind of what's there. Looking at Stafford's numbers, he's had a really good three weeks, and it wasn't the cupcakes. Two of those three teams were Cleveland and Baltimore in Baltimore. So my hope is that I can pick him up. I've already submitted a claim. If I can get Stafford, maybe Stafford can get me at least 20 points from a quarterback instead of 15 and 13.
One name, I'm going to get it right to you, Magic Man, here in a sec. But one name, Joe, you mentioned before we went on the air, just before as Magic Man came on, was Rashee Rice, who has been kind of a tweener, whether or not you even actually kept him on the, on your team, or if he was a waiver wire pickup. He is now expected to do a lot better this late in the season. Your thoughts on Rashee Rice? Is he a guy that you start thinking about starting at this point in time? Joe?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm going back and forth on whether I want to do that or not.
Because you mentioned that before we went on the air.
The Dolphins are playing the Jets. Jets have a very, very good defense. And if Mostard's going to take most of those goal line carries, then that's what's going to end up becoming an issue for me. Is if he doesn't get those goal line, at least a couple goal line chances at scoring, then that could end up being the demise in the playoffs for me. And by getting Rice, I am feeling pretty confident that the Chiefs are going to be very, 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 very angry this week, and they're going to play the perfect team this week to be really even more angry. They're going to want to put Belichick and the New England Patriots in the ground, and that's very, very tempting. I have to give it at least a couple more days. I want to see how things develop, and see if that flex position should stay at the running back position or with Rice. If I feel like Mahomes is going to use him as his number one, then I'm going to switch him, because Mostard's going to probably be more of the starting running back and probably get the majority of the carries for Miami, even though Aiken is going to get a lot of the passes outside the passes out of the backfield, and that in itself can play a beneficial factor in that, because if let's say he runs for 80 yards and gets 6 catches, all I need is one touchdown there, and you're over 20 points right there. So he doesn't necessarily have to be the number one option from beginning to end, but he could definitely drop 20 points if he could at least get one touchdown and get all the passes from out of the backfield. It's very hard. It's very hard to it's like poker. Fantasy football is just like poker. You do need a little bit of luck in there to and refs can destroy your week, by the way. You can get a touchdown pass out of the backfield. Let's say if it's Tua to H, you get that double dose of the quarterback getting the pass, getting the points on the touchdown pass, and then you got the running back who you have get the touchdown, he gets the reception, and then all of a sudden here's a penalty for some fucked up bullshit holding call that didn't look like a holding.
Okay. Magic Man, that was very colorfully worded there by Joe.
Yeah,
Your thoughts, though,
15, 15 minutes on the nose,
Oh,
Gerald.
I know. I got it. Yeah.
I saw
Thank
you
goodness.
there
Thank
there.
goodness. Inside Sports Fantasy Football doesn't run as long as the Lakers Fast Break. But yes, I got it. Indeed, no worries. But once
He
again, it is.
needed to get that out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he needed. Yeah, a lot of stress on LF. As far as LFB is concerned. But once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Magic Man. Again, it is playoff time in many leagues. Are there any key players you're thinking that are actually, injuries? They start to affect a lot of players. You see the production go down with a lot of players this time of the season, but there are few that are going to take opportunity this late in the season that help, maybe in some cases, catapult them to better seasons next season. So, your thoughts, my friend, on some players that people maybe need to keep an eye out for if they have them on their team or maybe sitting on their bench or maybe possibly even able to grab now on a waiver wire that could help them out with a playoff run.
Gonna grab another tight end here, Gerald Kincaid from the Bills.
Mhm.
I actually, I happen to think he's better. He's a better tight end than Dawson Knox. Um,
Okay.
I think he's a good. If he's available on the waiver wire, he's good to pick up.
I agree
Again,
with you.
I think Allen has come to rely on his tight ends late in the year, especially in the red zone.
Yeah.
And God, Gerald, we know he won't look off Stephon Diggs, even if his life depended on it. So it's almost as if it's Davis, Kincaid, and somebody out of the backfield that they they rely on. And I have to say, Gerald, I think they're making a huge mistake because you saw their GM dabbing up Sean McDermott after that big win. And quite frankly, this team's problems are just going to me, roll over again next season. If Sean McDermott is still your head coach.
Excellent point. I couldn't agree with you more on that. So let me ask you, Magic Man, as we get into NFL Week 15, and once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We truly appreciate everyone out there for being part of today's show. Let me ask you this, my friend. When it comes to NFL Week 15, with a lot of playoff spots are on the line or in the middle of a playoffs, let me ask you this. What are some of the matchups that you're looking forward to from a fantasy football perspective that really stand out? For me, I think the Lions and Broncos. I think if you got some players there, I think that's going to be a nice 37-25 showcase. I think this is the type of team that the Lions feast on. And I think that they give up enough points to the Broncos on the other end that I think it'll be that type of game. But your thoughts on a game or games that you think fantasy football team owners need to go ahead and worry about?
I like the Dallas Cowboys this week, Gerald. I think playing against the Buffalo Bills, Dak has the weapons to expose them in the middle. Especially with the Bills missing, they're really gonna miss somebody like Milano in a game like this with the way Dak Prescott is playing. They don't really have, they're not really strong over the middle, especially on those secondary and tertiary routes that the Cowboys seem to be able to run at will. So I would start Dak this week, Gerald. And as far as the other one, yeah, you I think the Broncos and Lions game is another good one because I think yeah, it's been a great story with Dan Campbell and the Lions, but it's December, Gerald, and,
Yeah.
and the Lions just do not play well in December. I mean, I used to remember those old Wayne Fonts teams. Their December record 1-3, 0-4, 1-3, 1-3, 2-2. Like it just carries over from one cycle of Lions teams to the next. They just can't win in December. So I'm with you. I play the Broncos this week as well.
Joe, any good matchups that you see for NFL Week 15 in regards to what players maybe would be thriving in a matchup this week?
I see. I see. I can see likely Swift having a good game.
Because you've been banking on him for quite some time.
Yeah, I think Swift will probably come out of his shell here this week. Seahawks are allowing, I think, 25 points on the average towards running backs.
Hmm.
I would have preferred them to be playing in Philly, but I'll take what I can get. I need Swift to bust out because he's my flex, and I'm always heavy on getting a running back at the flex, someone who can catch the ball out of the backfield. It usually just means you've got that perfect combination of running back and receiver, and I think that's just going to be very important, at least for me, to have any chance of beating the person who I'm playing this week. The person who I'm playing this week, unfortunately, has McCaffrey and Devontae Adams and has the Dallas defense. Kittle hasn't been doing much. He has Gibbs as well. Gibbs has been playing very well for Detroit. But if Swift can drop a 30 for me this week, it would be huge because Pollard and Jacobs are my 1 and 2. I need my running backs to come play for me this week. I need them all three to get me at least 25 points. If that can happen, if Tua can drop 20 for me, it's been a while since he's done that. Then I think I'll be in good shape. Likely of the Baltimore Ravens getting a lot of targets, and I'm very comfortable using him over Goddard. Goddard, I think, is still kind of hesitant a little bit, plus the struggles that Philly's having. I'm not going to depend on too many of the Philly players when the offense is kind of suffering. I think it's a little easier for a running back to kind of help a team get out of their slump versus a tight end. AJ Brown, sure, in my other league, AJ Brown is probably due as well. So let's get Swift the balls, hopefully, at the goal line. And let's hope that AJ Brown can give me at least 10 catches, 100 yards, and maybe a touchdown. If he's able to do that, getting me 26 points would be another added bonus in that league.
Once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford along with Joe Soro and Magic Man Sean Grice. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. If you have any last minute advice that you need, isfantasyfootball at yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. I know Cool Bro is hitting you with those Star Wars references there, Joe, in the chat. So maybe if you kind of respond to him on that, maybe talk a little bit of Star Wars, fast food smack back, that might be appreciated. But before we head on out, guys, it's that favorite time of the show, the time that Chris Lardieri initiated with his good friend Charles Smith many years ago on Inside Sports when they were doing their shows, and has evolved and transformed to here on this show for many years now as well. As we head on out of the house, going by. It's actually not been raining or snowing lately, so I guess that's okay. It's been high 50s, low 60s pretty much in most places on the West Coast. So you head out, not too hot, not too cold. But then you look over and the dog's sad because you walked right by him. So you head on back to the woof woof woof, head on back to the doghouse. Magic Man, it is NFL Week 15. Who is your dog in the doghouse?
My dog this week happens to be the one Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. Ben Roethlisberger had fun calling them out this week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But it's indoors. It's not outdoors, so elements don't affect Mitchell Trubisky that much. Indianapolis has a heck of a defense, but they're vulnerable to a quarterback that can create space, possibly. So I think Buckner's gonna have a hard time inside, and I expect the Steelers to have a couple other keys offensively, and I think they win.
All right. Well, there
Be
you
a
go.
close game, but I think Steelers win 24-22.
Good call, my friend. Good call indeed. Hopefully, after those words said by Ben Roethlisberger, that will inspire them. Joe, before we get into your pick, what are your thoughts on Ben Roethlisberger's comments on the Steelers?
Uh, it's kind of basic. It's not necessarily the fault of the Steelers organization that they're not what they used to be. It's because the NFL rules have not allowed them to be what they used to be. The Steelers used to intimidate you before you even got onto the field, and then on top of that, they hit you hard. I mean hard. And when you don't allow a team to be an intimidator, especially in a game like football, then what are you? You're the same as everybody else. So the Steelers have they have no allowance to be what they used to be because the league, the Players Association, and the owners have agreed to make the biggest pussy out of this league that it can be. So
Okay.
it's Big Ben, and I have a love-hate thing with Big Ben.
What Steelers fans do.
And the reason why the hate love the hate side is in there is because I believe he left at least a couple Super Bowl appearances and possibly two more titles on the table because he couldn't step away from the table. But more than that, obviously, his interaction and his stubbornness with his lifestyle before he finally figured out what the hell he was doing, that always stings. That always stays there because some of the reports I read were not good. While I don't believe he physically pinned people down, there was aggression there that makes him a certain person, and that's not good. And it's very hard to support somebody like that. But a lot of the reasons why this team is hurting is due to lack of talent where it matters, which is head coach. And you can't sit there and tell me about Kenny Pickett and Jalen Warren and Pickens and Johnson and all this. Guys, I want you guys to pay attention to when I say this. It's very important. No one talks about it for some weird reason in the media. Actually, I know why, but I'm not going to talk about it here publicly. I'm going to stick to the facts. This is going to be the 13th. That's a full career for a Hall of Fame player, by the way, folks, in a lot of years, right? 13 years is coming up here. This is going to be the 13th season since Super Bowl 45. The Steelers have won 3 playoff games. 3 playoff games. And I want you to hear me out on these 3 playoff wins. 2015, and I'm going to say the season, not when it happened in 16 after the new year. So it's season 15, season 2015. They beat the Bengals in a rough and tough game that they should have lost. And if the only reason why they didn't lose was because Vontaze Burfict and Pac-Man Jones decided to fuck up their teams. That game was over. It was over. That game was over. And A.J. McCarron had a win against the Steelers. A.J. McCarron, guys. The second win, Matt Moore in Miami, let Steelers blow him out. It was a great game. I enjoyed it. Le'Veon Bell had an amazing game. The week after, had an amazing game. Couldn't score a touchdown that game, but we went into Kansas City and beat him in Kansas City, kicking 6 field goals. However, you were playing against Alex Smith. That's it, guys. That's all they've done in 13 seasons. And they're not going to win a playoff game this year, by the way, just so you know. So if they make it. So 13 seasons. At what point are you going to continue to tell me that Mike Tomlin is this great coach when he had the best by a mile, and this is not debatable, by a mile, you had the best receiver for at least 3 years. You could have said 5, but for sure, you had the best receiver for 3 years. You had the best combination of running back receiver in Le'Veon Bell for 3 years. And you had a bona fide top 5 quarterback in the NFL, slinging it, throwing 6 touchdown passes in a half, throwing 5 consecutive 500-yard games. You had a offensive juggernaut in an era where offense was killing everybody because of the rule changes. And what did you do? You won 3 playoff games against shitty quarterbacks. You got dusted by Tim Tebow, and you got dusted by Blake Bortles. And you keep having 9-8 and 9-7 and 8-8 record, and I'm supposed to be impressed with that. Steelers are about winning Super Bowls, not making it to the playoffs and having 9-7 and 9-8 records. Who are you fooling? I've watched every single Mike Tomlin coached game. Every single one. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm looking at. Don't tell me. That man has been the skipper to countless games like you've seen the last 2 weeks. This isn't the first time this has happened. This happens every single season where he has his team ill-prepared and ill-informed on how to play and beat lousy teams. Not mid-tier, lousy teams. You had 2 teams you played in consecutive weeks that had 2 wins all the way through week 14. And not only did you lose, you got your ass kicked. So this is not the first time this happened. This happens every year. And it cost us, at that time, second seeds. It cost us playoff wins, playoff seedings, playoff appearances. It cost us a lot. Yet everybody is sitting there whacking it off to his, we've never had a losing season. You can take your non-losing season and shove it up your ass. Okay. We're about winning Super Bowls. We have 6 of them. And we've lost probably 1 or 2 of those because of stupidity and inability to coach. I'm supposed to be, I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand. If I had any advice to the Steelers, trade Mike Tomlin right now. He has 1 more year on his contract. Trade him to Washington because I think Rivera is going to be gone. Trade him to Washington, get a couple of first-round picks. Hell, get 1 first-round pick, and that's a win for me. And go get Ben Johnson out of Detroit. And let's go. Let's get with it, folks. I'd love to get Mike McDaniel, to be honest with you, but we're not going to get him. I love that.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. So, Joe, before we head on out, my friend, who is your pick? Woof, woof, woof.
I'm picking the Cardinals over the Niners this week.
Okay.
Because every single time the double-handed sucking starts happening for Brock Purdy and the Niners, they go left. Every single time they start hand jobbing that, they start blue balled. They get blue balled. See how much better the show would be if I did this on Lakers fans.
I will tell you, I've got the Giants in honor of our good friend Chris Ardieri, who is actually couldn't make it tonight. I've got Chris Ardieri's team, the New York Giants, on as far as I think they're 6 is what the spread is right now, as far as a 6-point underdog to the very all over the place Derek Carr led Saints. Yeah, any time that Derek Carr's leading your team, you're always in the game on the other side. So I will say that the 6-point cushion is not going to be enough, and that the Giants will actually get within that and actually be able to win you out some money if you utilize that. But that's just our thoughts, our picks, our choices for entertainment only on that. It's up to you if you want to use it. But then again, comes with knowledge of please gamble responsibly. But guys, it's a great weekend coming up in the NFL and also fantasy football as playoffs have begun. Cool Bro is saying his game of the week is Rams versus the Commanders, and tell Magic Man 2. Okay, I will tell that too. Rams and the Commanders. I wonder why. Maybe it's because that is Cool Bro's favorite team, the Rams.
Mhm.
Williams better play well. That's all I'll say because he's my running back on my team that needs to win to get in the playoffs.
By the way, Tommy Cutlets, great nickname, Gerald. It's a
Yes.
lot better than Tommy DeVito.
Yes, absolutely. Although, the mafia memes with DeVito,
Well,
once he came into the game,
let's be honest, his agent does look kind of greasy.
I'm telling you, yeah, they showed the picture of him. They talked about, yeah, it fits, man. It fits.
His agent looks like he could actually be in a episode of The Sopranos.
Can you say witness protection program? I knew you could.
He looks like a Halloween.
He should have a members only jacket. That would have just been the
No,
tracksuit.
tracksuit. Got to do with the tracksuit.
Okay, with the wife, with what wife beater?
Wife beaters, yes, and the
Yeah, okay.
chains. You got to do the
All right.
chains. Got to have a little hair coming out right there. Let's go full on. Steer.
Well,
That's
it's
what.
gotta be a bull though, Gerald, because it
Okay.
can't be a regular gold chain because it could be mistaken for an Armenian.
Okay. Well, the best one that did a mock of that was the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus. That did an absolutely great job with their guys as far as the bad guys on there. The generic bad guys absolutely looking like that. So great shout out to that great series. One of the best that Marvel has done over the past few years, which is saying something because it's been all over the place. But it is NFL Week 15. It is fantasy football playoffs in gear. Guys, any last thoughts before we head on out? Either one of you guys, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see if true to form I think the Bills just Kalima with their fans again, Gerald. There's just something that's telling me
It's that roller coaster ride.
Yeah, they're gonna rip their hearts out of their chests again.
Yeah, I have a comment about the Bills. I think the Bills are not losing because they aren't trying to kill themselves to win. There's a difference between this shitty team versus just a team that's not getting a few breaks. That's how the NFL is. That's how they set this up. And right away, it's like, what's wrong with this team? Look, man, sometimes shit happens. Okay, you get a bad month, a couple balls don't go your way. It's just what it is. And the way they're ragging on this team, the way they're tearing it down, like, oh, this guy's not gonna amount to shit. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. This is the NFL. You guys created this. It's funny how all these people who supposedly know how the game works, all of a sudden, oh well, what's wrong with Josh Allen? Is he not who we thought he was? I go, you guys created this problem. You created it. Why is every game down to the wire? Because your refs control the tempo. They control the emotion. One stupid penalty screws that up. And then one little mistake and it turns into some mushroom cloud. It's like, dude, you guys asked for this. The running back thing at the beginning of the year cracked me up. Jonathan Taylor trying to scare people. Dude, they don't give a damn about running backs in the NFL. They don't care. They don't care. Whoever pays a running back $20 million a year is dumb. It's dumb. Learn from the Le'Veon Bell situation. He actually was a guy that would have been able to earn $20 million. But you can't. You cannot pay that position that much money because they're irrelevant, because the rules made it irrelevant. You guys allowed the voting to go through. You allowed the owners to get an upper hand on you, and this is what you're going to eat. You need to eat it. Eat the shit burger that you guys created when you could have burned them 12 years ago. That's consequences. There was a really good Key and Peele, hilarious skit about consequences. I highly recommend you guys watch it if you haven't. It's freaking hilarious. Consequences.
Cool, bro.
Bad decisions. Money, when money goes in front of principle and the greater picture, the bigger picture, you got it. You're eating it now, guys. This is what you do. This is what happens when you keep thinking about, I need to get paid. Okay, well, you're getting paid now, not what you want, because you made bad decisions before. And believe me, the NFL would be a much better league if it had the traditional running back that we enjoyed watching. But you didn't. No, you made everything. You made everything for the receivers and for the quarterback, and this is what you get.
Once again, it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. If you have any questions for us, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter. Well, we wish you the very best of luck this weekend in the NFL for all your fantasy football teams. Cool Bro, who has likened Darth Joe, Luke Hamburger Walker as Magic Man, me as Han Fries. At least you don't get named after fries. Obi-Wan Double Nobi, he is, and Chewie is Jamie. Well, then again, I guess that's better than Jamie, so he gets stuck with Chewie. So there you go.
I actually think I'm not.
He's kind of hairy, so
Yeah, I'm not too big up on the names, but Joe strikes me as a Darth Rageous.
okay. He's
Rage.
raging somewhere, that's for sure.
Well,
But
there
what-
was a Plagueis, right? Why
Yes,
shouldn't there
Darth
be
Plagueis.
Why
Yes.
shouldn't there be a Rageous?
Yes, he does rage indeed. Once again, it is the Inside Sports Fantasy Football Show. Truly appreciate you joining us. We'll be back next week for more playoff and NFL Week 16 thoughts. With hopefully Chris will be back to join us. Looking forward to having you back, but wishing you all the best of luck this week on your fantasy football team at NFL Week 15 from all of us here at Inside Sports Fantasy Football.